Yes, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. This is Andy. It's Freedom Talk Radio. We've got Tim, author Timothy Spearman. Um, give them out your website, Tim.
Yeah, shakespearecodex.com. Come on over, have a look. There's many sections there on the website that will keep you busy. There's some songs with song lyrics. There's some academic articles from my academia.edu site. So come on in and take a look around. There's some really good articles that Andy's posted on the main page. You can see the main page there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just show you the academia bit. So yeah, we've got the bio, the academia page, sacred geometry, poems and songs, the articles. Tim's books is on another link, which goes goes to this page. Just tells you all about the books, etc. Um, yeah, yeah. One ftjmedia.com platform. There's a donation button if you want to buy us a coffee. Um, you have to join though to donate, which I don't understand that, but it is free of charge. And yeah, well, anyway, today we're going to be talking about the link between Princess Diana's death and the royal family. Now, just mention a few things before Tim gives us the history of this. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation that the conspiracy theories have been roaming riot, going overboard. Yeah, yeah, but then why not in some ways? Because maybe it is true. And because Mohammed Al Fayed, he says, and that's Diana's father in law, claimed that the crash was orchestrated by the MI6 on the instructions of the royal family. Paul Burrell, the butler, claimed that Diana wrote a note in 1993 alleging that her husband was planning an accident for her. And then Diana's spiritual advisor claimed to have warned Diana that her brakes would be tampered with um, in the next few days at that point. To contradict this, they're saying, that the French investigators found that Diana died in an accident. Well, you know, that's normal. If they can't find out the real truth at the time, they're going to say it's an accident. And then the Operation Pager obviously said the Met Police um, that they looked at 175 conspiracy claims, found none of them to be true. That's 175 claims and about millions of people that are saying the same thing, and they found it not true. I don't find that very true either. Then Lord Justice Baker's inquest into Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed was just a. Oh, sorry, I'll do it a different way now. Lord Justice Baker's inquest concluded that Diana and Dodi Fayed were victims of an unlawful killing. Ah, that's interesting. Other factors: the driver and Mercedes were impaired by alcohol. Diana was not wearing a seatbelt, and the Mercedes struck a pillar in the Alma tunnel. I can remember, Tim. Now I'm just guessing this one. Do I remember? No, I don't know why. It's just come to light in my head. Did she die at 12:23 a.m.? I don't know why I'm thinking that, and I'm not even been looking at anything. And I'll
Isn't
tell you why I think it was past midnight. I was up that night about 10 past 12. Something happened to make me wake, and I
yes,
thought, can't sleep. I put the TV on or the radio at the time, and I looked at the watch, and it was about 12:23. It just came to me now. Weird.
isn't that
Anyway,
interesting? Yeah. Yeah, I have had similar experiences like that. I remember I went and was looking for some music that might be interested in purchasing, and I found a cassette tape of Queen. I had never purchased a Queen album. I do like their music, but I had never purchased a Queen album. And I just that day just had an impulse, and I bought this Queen Greatest Hits cassette. I then found out that Freddie Mercury had died that day.
Wow.
So that's an odd coincidence, and I don't believe in just random coincidence. Yeah, interesting. So, well, I mean, she died in Pont de la Mont tunnel in Paris, and none of the cameras in the tunnel were functioning that day, of all days. They had never ever had a malfunction, but just so happens that that day they were not working. So nothing that happened in the tunnel was recorded on any of the security cameras. Now, I remember when there is an assassination attempt of any kind and the victim doesn't die immediately, the standard MO is to gain control of the ambulance and medical team that responds to the event so that they can finish the job. What wasn't successfully accomplished in the actual assassination attempt will be completed by those who pose as a medical team. Now, my radio show co-host George Freund of former days, Andy has been my radio show co-host for many, many years since. But back in the day, George and I were a team, and he's a former police constable turned security guard. He was a Brinks guard at one point. But anyway, he's a radio show jock and a great investigator, and he's exposed and stopped some terrorist actions from taking place, like the Toronto 18, which ostensibly was an operation aimed at severely damaging, if not blowing up, the CN Tower in Toronto. He stopped that. He got the word out, and he basically stopped it from occurring. There was an assassination attempt on him. A farmer who was already facing other charges pending. He pulled his tractor trailer across the highway so that when George came to the top of the hill, he was faced with having to run headlong right into this tractor trailer. And he hit the uprights and managed to avoid going under and being decapitated. He was badly injured, had an ankle dislocated, and I believe a broken leg, and he was injured, but fortunately it wasn't a fatal car accident, which seems to have been what they had set up. At the scene, there arrived a supposed off-duty police officer and a supposed off-duty paramedic, and they did not want him to use his cell phone. Why not? Let him call whoever he wants. It's an accident and the man's in danger. He can do it as he pleases. It's not going to take a lot of stress to just dial a number and talk to someone on the other end. They actually tried to snatch this phone from him. Had he not been able to get the call out to people like me, I'm sure these two would have killed him. It's just infuriating. And so that's what I'm talking about. And apparently, Diana was bleeding from her aorta, I believe it was, and there was internal bleeding, and she was slowly bleeding to death, hemorrhaging. And instead of rushing her to the hospital pronto, they delayed and delayed and delayed. And I believe that when she finally arrived at a hospital, it was too late. She'd already succumbed. And it wasn't the nearest hospital, but one that was some distance from the tunnel, and it took too long to get there. So I think it was deliberately mismanaged, the emergency response, and they were not going to let her escape in short term explanation. They just
So
didn't want.
it's possible that even if it was an attempt on her life, if the French had got there quick enough, she could have survived. But because of the delay, she didn't.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I do think that there's quite a bit of circumstantial evidence, at least, that the British royal family had something to do with it, some involvement. And the claim that MI6 was involved, according to Mr. Fayed, yeah, well, they're assigned to protect the royal family. And since she posed a threat to the royal family, she knew too much, and she was making threatening claims that she was going to reveal information about the British royal family. And I think to prevent any of those disclosures, the British security services took her out. And Pont de
Yeah,
la
could it
Mort.
be?
Mm.
Oh, sorry. Sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking, could it be? I always find it strange that as soon as she died, very quickly, he went into his lover's bed. You know, Camilla, who's now the so-called queen. Could it be because of that? You know, he had an affair with Camilla, and she found out and wanted to blow the now king out of the pot. You know, could it be that?
I'm sure that something of that nature was also in play, but I think there's dark secrets related to the British royal family that she knew about and was planning to disclose. And her bodyguard accompanied her to Balmoral Castle at one point up in Scotland, and they both witnessed a rather disturbing arcane ritual down in the cellar of the castle. And the people participating in this ritual were all wearing hoods and masks, and appeared to be very sinister. There were even some allegations made by her bodyguard that they looked otherworldly, that they didn't look human. So I don't know.
Hmm. Well, we actually know, not confirmed, but there are people saying that they believe the words were linked to child sexual abuse at the time. And we also know that Princess Diana's brother Earl Spencer was abused at a boarding school. I mean, it may not be linked, but I'm sure she had something going along them lines. You know that
Yeah,
led to her death.
yeah. I think satanic ritual abuse is practiced by many aristocratic families in Europe. And some of those same bloodlines exist in the United States. And I remember reading a very surprising statistic in the past about how there's maybe as many as 25 million satanic bloodline families in the United States who are practicing Satanists. And imagine the percentage is probably about the same in Canada. So, is it possible that there's some truth to these allegations? Well, Kevin Annett, Reverend Kevin Annett, though he was stripped of his reverend status by the United Church of Canada because of the allegations he was making about the church and its involvement in the residential school system, and how many children were not cared for properly in the residential school system and were in fact abused. And he alleges that there are mass graves across the country involving the victims of that abuse. And he claims that at one point the Queen and Prince Philip were visiting in Canada, and there were some Native children that went missing, and he alleges that some kind of satanic ritual abuse ceremony took place involving the royals while they were visiting Canada. Now, I don't know what evidence he has for that, but I believe it's on his website, hiddenfromhistory.org. So when you've got allegations on both sides of the Atlantic against the Queen and Prince Philip, you've got to wonder if there's any truth to the allegation. Now, if Diana had information of that nature and was planning to disclose it, you could understand why they would take desperate measures to stop her from doing so. Now, I know David Icke, in his book, The Biggest Secret, alleges that there is a connection between the European aristocracy and the race of aliens called the Anunnaki, which in ancient Sumerian means those who from the heavens came to earth. Were these the fallen angels that, as it's recorded in the book of Genesis and in the book of Enoch and in the book of Adam and Eve, which are apocryphal gospels, both of those gospels? Is it the fallen angels who were being described? It states the sons of the gods found the daughters of men beautiful and wedded with them, and they produced the race of giants known as the Nephilim, the great men of renown. That is the book of Genesis account. It's there, it's in the Bible, and it's mentioned also in the book of Enoch and the book of Adam and Eve, two apocryphal gospels. So is the royal family connected to that bloodline? And according to David Icke, these royals and aristocrats that have this bloodline are capable of shape-shifting from their third-dimensional human form into their fourth-dimensional reptilian form. Well, I don't know whether it's described accurately by David Icke. I suspect that there are families that have this hybrid human alien bloodline, but whether they actually shapeshift in these satanic rituals, I don't know. I've never been there to witness it, so I have no way of being able to confirm that. But what do you think, Andy?
So I was just finding Kevin Annett's website. It isn't that one anymore. It's CanadianGenocide.nativeweb.org.
Always change the title of the website. At least change
Yeah,
the URL.
CanadianGenocide.native.org. But just Google Kevin Arnett and you'll find what he's doing. But yeah, he's had some recent posts on that website. So yeah,
I see.
I was too busy looking for that. I was going to show the picture of infamously.org.com.canada, but it's not there anymore.
I see.
I do,
Well, I haven't looked into all that for many years, so I didn't realize the website URL had changed.
no, that's all right. We do know that, going on the same subject, there's supposed to be with Princess Di. I read it earlier actually. There's are they going to open her coffin up again?
They're going to exhume her.
Yeah,
Going to exhume her remains. Really?
I don't know whether that would be the conspiracy part or the real part. Hang on, have a little look.
Well, I do know that they, following the accident, they induced a embalming agent to ostensibly preserve her body, but that embalming agent prevented an accurate pregnancy test from being performed to establish whether she was actually carrying Dore Fayed's child or not.
I did see it somewhere, but yeah, I guess officially it's not been open, but there are people putting articles out that it is being open. So yeah.
Well, the fact that this case has been reopened so many times because of the pressure that's been brought to bear on the case to reinvestigate it and to, check the findings from the last investigation one more time. It's happened so many times. It's been reopened at least 3 times. That in itself should be a red flag, I would think.
And the fact that Harry and his wife, it is Harry, isn't it? That's over in the States, and his wife, they're like the black sheep of the family. I think the reason they're hated so much is because they know a lot about the mum, and how she died. Yeah, is it the Duke of Sussex? Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite conceivable that Harry is a kind of family whistleblower, and yeah.
Whereas the other brother is a bit like his dad, Oh, if that's the case, then we'll accept it. But the other, Harry's more okay. We can accept it, but we need to know more information first. Yeah, that's the way it should be. You always ask questions.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the truth will gradually emerge to the point of critical mass, and then there will be no denying it, I'm sure. Anyway, the Jack the Ripper case is another one that has been linked to the British royal family of the day. And there have been fictional films made about the Jack the Ripper case that also establish a link to the royal family. One of them, starring Christopher Plummer in the role of Sherlock Holmes, investigated the case, and it's called Murder by Decree, meaning royal decree. And then there's Johnny Depp's film From Hell, which also has a royal family link in it. And there's also allusions to the role of Freemasonry in the killings in the Johnny Depp film From Hell. Now, From Hell is a very disturbing suspense thriller, but well worth watching. Now, Stephen Knight wrote a book, The Final Solution, in which he did also come to the conclusion that the royals and Freemasonry were implicated in the case. Now, Catherine Endos, one of the poor unfortunates, near her body, when it was discovered, there was a message scrawled on the wall next to the body in chalk, and it said, "The Jewies," that's Juwes, "are not the ones who will be killed for nothing." Now, that is an allusion to the third degree of Freemasonry. And the Jewies are the three unworthy craftsmen, Jibbalah, Jibbalah, and Jibbalum, who confronted the architect in King Solomon's temple. His name was Hiram Abiff, and they cordoned off the exits and would not let him leave. And they were allegedly trying to extract the secrets of the Master Mason degree, and he would not divulge the secrets, so they cordoned off the exits and wouldn't let him leave. And one of them struck him a blow in the temple and had him fall to one knee. And then he tried to exit through another exit, and the other ruffian confronted him and struck him a blow on the other temple, forcing him to drop to one knee, once again stunned. When he recovered, the third assassin struck him a blow to the middle of the the middle of the forehead with a stone maul and felled him, knocked him dead. Now, that alleged historical incident, whether it's just Freemason lore or whether it actually is an historical incident, it's nevertheless commemorated in the third degree of Freemasonry. Now, we know that Freemasonry is so influential on our society that a lot of our institutions and even the vocabulary we use in daily discourse shows the influence of this powerful secret society, this powerful fraternity, this powerful brotherhood, not least the medical profession and the anatomical structure of the body. What do we refer to the sides of the frontal part of the skull, but the temples? And that's where those blows were administered on Hiram Abiff. And with the frontal lobotomy operation, you are targeting exactly that region of the brain in the operation. And sadly, the Freemason William Gull, who is the family's physician, the British royal family's physician and abortionist. Why abortionist? Because presumably some of the royals, to prevent a scandal, would undergo an abortion to prevent the scandal of an illegitimate heir being disclosed to the public, and he would perform these abortions in the palace. William Gull, the 33rd degree Freemason, was definitely, according to the evidence, involved in the Ripper killings. Now, the 5 official killings all involved prostitutes who hailed from the Whitechapel district, specifically Cleveland Street, where they had a brothel apparently across the street from where Prince Eddie, the Duke of Clarence, was having his liaisons with a woman named Annie, who is a Roman Catholic girl, and she became pregnant with his child. Clarendon Street was raided by the police, and both of them were arrested. He was taken into detention and summarily interrogated, and she, the poor girl, Annie, was taken to a lunatic asylum, which we would call a mental health unit today, but that's what the name of it was in those days. And William Gull, apparently, according to the records, performed a frontal lobotomy on the poor dear so that she was rendered an invalid lunatic. And whenever she made ravings about the prince and how she was married to the prince and all this, everyone just thought she was just making lunatic ravings, and every comment she made was dismissed. And I believe she was there in that institution for the rest of her life. So, to prevent the scandal regarding the Duke of Clarence, this was their solution. And those prostitutes that knew about his affair with the woman Annie were taken out one by one. And I just talked about one of those victims, Catherine Endos, but there were 5 in total.
Yeah, I've just noticed something on the news which is a little bit interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I found that forgotten royal home that is haunted by Prince, accused of being Jack the Ripper. And it just so happens to be, though, York Cottage, which is in the former, it's a royal home located on the Sandringham estate where Princess Diana lived. So, anyway, that's just a little.
Well,
The things you watch on the internet and read, eh?
yeah, anyway, the Jack the Ripper was just the name that the press came up for this sensational series of serial killings. And in fact, it was a gang. And we know that at least one member of that gang was a Mason, William Gull, 33rd degree Freemason. Now, he had accomplices, and they would bring the women to a coach with William Gull inside the coach, and they were fed grapes, which would be a luxury in those days. And the grapes had an injection of laudanum, which is opium diluted in alcohol, which was used as a painkiller back in the day. And it was a drug that would induce a sleepiness or even a loss of consciousness if you took it in enough quantity. And that would basically dope the poor victim, who would then be killed within the coach in some Masonic ritual type of killing. I won't go into the gory details of how the corpse was mutilated. It's disgusting. Now, there was one participant in these crimes who probably didn't actually lay a single hand on the victims, but was there to record what took place, because Masons traditionally have recorded their works. So they have as part of their MO, an effort to actually record the event. And so an artist who also lived on Cleveland Street, Walter Sicart, he was there when Mary Kelly was mutilated, and there's a very gory painting by Walter Sicart that seems to commemorate that horrible killing. And I believe other slayings of the Ripper gang were also recorded by this artist. Now, I find his name, the phoneme Sicart, really interesting. Sometimes the universe seems to give these famous personages the name they deserve. Because indeed, can you imagine a sicker form of art than this Sicart character and his paintings? Now, there was one effort to implicate an emigre in the East End who was implicated because of a blood stain found on the shawl of one of the victims, and the shawl was found near her body. Now, the blood on not the blood, but the semen stain on the shawl, the DNA analysis linked the sample as trace evidence to a Polish Jew emigre in the East End, Kaminsky. And this was given as evidence that this was the Ripper killer. Well, I just don't find it convincing in the least. First of all, the stain on the shawl could have been from him as a client visiting her in some private room, and just because the shawl was found by her body at the murder scene does not implicate him in the murder in the least. There's no way of dating how long that stain had been on the shawl, and presumably he was just one of her customers, and there's no evidence that he was there performing coitus and then leaving his stain on the shawl at the time of the killing. There's no way that that can be proven. So I don't find this evidence convincing in the least. And how they can claim this man to be the Ripper is absurd in my view. So there is a documentary film by Chris Everart. So if you ever will look up Chris Everart, you can visit his website, and he's got quite an array of films, both feature films and documentaries, available on his website for order. So you might want to check out his documentary on the Jack the Ripper slayings. His theory about it is similar to Stephen Knight's in The Final Solution, but he delves a little deeper, and he comes up with, I think, 3 suspects that worked as a team, and 2 of them brought the ladies to the coach, where the participant inside the coach performed the macabre rituals, and then those 2 accomplices would then remove the body and lay it out on Mitre Square or wherever the body was found in the Whitechapel district. So, yeah, I would definitely say that Jack the Ripper was not one individual, but in fact a gang, and that in some way they represented the three unworthy craftsmen performing these rituals based on the third degree of Freemasonry and mutilating the poor women in accordance with Freemasonic ritual. Now, this is an old theory that's been affirmed both in research books and in fictional films time and again. So just like the Diana killing, there is constant reaffirmation of alleged theories regarding the implicating of the royals and the masons. And this has happened historically over and over again since that horrible time in the late 19th century. So I have a number of research projects that I did when I was writing Shakespeare's Codex, All the World Staged and We Are Merely Played. And in book volume 2, both of those cases, the murder of Princess Diana and the Jack the Ripper case, are covered in 2 chapters in volume 2 because I have such a vast amount of material. I had to divide Shakespeare's Codex into 2 volumes, volume 1 and volume 2. We hope to have one of the books, volume 1, published sometime in 2025. Andy, when you were a lad, you must have heard lots of rumors about these matters. What did you ever hear about the Jack the Ripper case as a young fellow? Andy, I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I put it on mute. Yeah, to me, when I was young, Jack the Ripper wasn't that real. I mean, hear me out here. Um, it wasn't that believable because it was so confusing that I think you've just said it already that it may have been one person, it may have been many people, and that's why it was confusing that it wasn't the real person. And what sticks in my mind more than anyone is Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, because he was one person. And that's why Jack the Ripper wasn't, you know, you if somebody committed a crime, you remember them, but if you're confused about it, your brain doesn't click to that. But yeah, Yorkshire Ripper, but not Jack the Ripper.
I remember that one of the accomplices was a coach driver. He actually drew a cabbie. He was a cabbie, and so he would be driving the coach, and then he would dismount from his seated position at the front of the coach and would lure one of these women to the coach, and then they would be lured to enter the coach with the offer of grapes, and the grapes were laced with laudanum, which would induce this sleepy state and basically sedate the victim before they were mutilated in a satanic ritual fashion. So it's all very gory and very horrible. Um,
And of course, the press, they sensationalize all this stuff, don't they? I mean, at the time, when Yorkshire Ripper or even Jack the Ripper was going around, it was only because the press told you that he was going to kill you or they were going to kill you that you worried about it. If you just watch your TV, go to your job, and do whatever, you weren't worried about it that much. So there was some kind of sensationalism about it for sure.
Yeah, and of course, the fake news, the sensationalism regarding the case from a yellow journalism point of view is meant to basically misguide people into believing that the case involves one lone killer nutcase lunatic, when in fact it's an orchestrated conspiracy involving a few members of a gang.
Yeah, well, it's like 911, isn't it? And COVID. The gang is the government in some of these occasions. And yeah, they will they'll get their just desserts. And I want to say, God bless America today. Donald Trump is back, and he's already helped in the ceasefire in Gaza. So yeah, God bless Donald J. Trump. I know it's not quite Canadian or Justin Trudeau resigned, thank God, but it's a step for democracy and free speech.
Well, I'm not sure. I think that definitely it's a blessing to get rid of Biden and Kamala Harris, but I'm not sure. I mean, with Trump's claims about Greenland and Canada becoming the 51st state, I don't really know that I fully endorse this character. The idea of absorbing Canada, a vast territory that's bigger than the United States of America, and just making it for 51st state is absurd. I mean, it's such a huge zone to administer Canada from coast to coast and from the border, the US border, all the way up to the Arctic Circle. You're talking about a vast territory, and to make all of that landmass the 51st state is absurd. You would have to make Ontario a state, Quebec a state, the Atlantic provinces a state. The prairie provinces could be amalgamated and made into one state, and then British Columbia. And then there's Newfoundland, the island, which doesn't have much going for it, but I mean, that would be no doubt a separate province altogether because it's a big island. And that might be possible, but with the threat of tariffs being imposed when we already have the NAFTA agreement, which was signed and ratified by Mexico, the United States, and Canada to do away with tariffs so that the three countries could sell each other's goods and services to each other without these tariffs being imposed. And so it basically dissolves the agreement NAFTA by Trump imposing these tariffs on imported goods from Canada. Obviously, that's going to be devastatingly hurtful to the Canadian economy. And when you think back to the Great Depression, one of the causes of the Great Depression was the protectionist measures which were adopted by the nations at that time to protect their economies. And that was one of the factors that led to the Great Depression. So just to illustrate, imagine if protective tariffs were invoked in the United States against Canadian goods crossing the US border back at the time of the Great Depression, and you could imagine that with our greatest trading partner being the United States, that would have a devastating effect on the Canadian economy at the time. Now, to make matters worse, we had a drought out in the prairies, and so our prairie farmers were very badly hit by the drought at the time, and so every conceivable problem that could occur at a time when the economy was already in trouble, you can see would have had a precipitating effect, and certainly the imposition of protective tariffs would have been part of that.
Yeah, I don't understand geography wise. For US to have Greenland, it'd be mad, and in a way, for Denmark to still have Greenland, the same thing really. Bit mad. It's sort of in the middle of both, and yeah, I don't know. There's nothing in Greenland apart from Trump wants some minerals from the from wherever they get the minerals from. That's all I know. I'm daft, but
Yeah, it's
why argue over a bit of land that's not really? I mean, it's a good country, Greenland. I think I've seen a couple of videos, but really, why worry about something so remote and so not needed? You know,
yeah,
Trump
vast
is Trump
vast
is
land.
better off saving these. Yeah, he's saving these wars if he can. He's better off getting rid of the asylum seekers from Mexico, and giving our UK Prime Minister a kick up the arse. He shouldn't really worry about Greenland. you know,
Well, it's a strategic move as well because of its position up in the Arctic Circle. It's a strategic move to presumably protect North America against a Russian attack.
yeah, but at the same time, that's only if it's land and air and all that stuff. But if Russia presses that nuclear button, who gives a monkeys about Greenland? Kind of.
Well, I mean, there would probably be strategic nukes placed in northern Canada, Ellesmere Island, Baffin Island, or Greenland, if this move were to go ahead, act as a deterrent against any type of attack by Russia.
Yeah, true, true.
Canada is protected by Strategic Air Command bombers, which fly way up in the stratosphere, and you can see um, their trail as they're flying, and they fly over Canadian airspace. And should there ever be a nuclear threat from Russia, they would immediately dispatch these SAC bombers to targets in Russia, presumably flying over the Arctic Circle and down to various targets in Russia.
Yeah, true. Can I draw people's attention to ftjmedia.com? Please join the website. It is exactly zero cost. Then you can comment and like, and maybe donate to your famous your best shows. Yeah, David Dave has been, the founder of the website with Josh. They've been absolutely amazing giving us this tool. It's $5 a month, £4 in the UK. You'd be silly not to not to purchase that if you've got free speech and you want to air it out. It's live on YouTube, live on Facebook, live on X, all for £4 a month. Yeah, that is absolutely brilliant. And don't forget, you can also watch these shows on Freedom Talk Radio Online.com, which you could probably see there. The same, yeah.
And you post the shows on YouTube too, right, Andy?
Yeah, it's live. It just does it automatically. I couldn't work it out last time. How it's so brilliant after all the trouble we had. Well, it wasn't trouble. It was like teething problems. We tried to work out what was going on here, there, and everywhere, and it just posts it. It's amazing.
Well, I had a lot of shows from that channel, and that channel's YouTube channel was scrubbed from YouTube, and so all those shows were taken off YouTube. They were gone, and Hugh had archived those shows on his hard drive, so he sent a file to me of a lot of the old shows, so I still have them, but
Oh, send me the file and I'll get them. I'll get them sorted.
alrighty, I will do that.
Yeah, no, I'll put them on YouTube. Oh, there we go. There's me now live on ftjmedia.com. And of course, if you speak, you'll be there as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to probably send you the file by
WeTransfer.
transfer. Yeah.
Yeah. WeTransfer.com.
Yeah, we'll do.
If it's any bigger than 2 GB, I can sort that out as well.
Alrighty. Very good.
Well, shall we close this show tonight?
Yeah, we have gone over time, so yeah, I guess we better. So thanks for being with us.
Shakespeare, remember ShakespeareCodex.com.
Yeah, come on by and visit the website and have a look around, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. 2 Peas in a podcast.
Actually, Tim, before we go, there was one I was thinking about earlier when you was talking, but I've forgotten. But what about surrounded by idiots? Not because they are idiots, but because they're not informed very well. Maybe that's a new name, but there was another one that you'd even like better, but it sort of slipped my mind for now.
All right, well, we'll think about it. We're just playing with show titles. I mean, 2 Peas in a podcast is not really our show title. I just like that to describe us.
Well, I'm a peach, and you're a pea then. A peach and a pea in a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, it was good to be with you, Andy. And I know you're going on holiday for 2 weeks, so we'll look forward to resuming when you get back.
Or we could maybe, I'll say maybe, internet connection prevailing. Next week we could do one on my mobile phone, but that'll be a treat because it'll be 5 p.m. UK. It'll be 8 p.m. Turkey, but still the same your time at 12.
All right. Well, I want you to enjoy
We
holiday.
could try that.
All right. We'll see how you feel. I mean, if you think you're rested and have time for it while you're on holiday, great. I just don't want to spoil your holiday with, some looming appointment that's distracting you from the sights and sounds of Turkey. You know what I mean?
No, we can make an excuse.
All right.
Or we could do it a bit earlier. Yeah, we could always do it earlier or later. But yeah, no worries. We'll sort it.
All right. Well,